Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am back with yet another tumbler tutorial, and this is kind of similar to a herringbone but not quite exactly. So we're going to do this V-split multi-glitter V-split style tumbler, and I'm going to show you everything that I use in today's tutorial will be listed and linked down below. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with this beautiful pattern that I picked up from a company a year or two ago. And so I will definitely list it down below if it is still available. If not, I will definitely find you something that is comparable or similar to this Snowflake design. And we're using a 20-ounce skinny. So this is a skinny that has a taper, so it's not a fully straight tumbler. It will have a taper. And we're going to create that V-split. So you guys have seen me do kind of this triangle method. Because I know this is going to be a little bit more narrow of a cup, I'm going to do this triangle both ways so that I'm going to have kind of this X pattern on the back of my vinyl. I'm then going to just cut down kind of those lines that I've created when I folded the vinyl pattern, and we're going to use just one of these triangles to apply to the tumbler for the vinyl V-split portion of the cup. Now just grabbing my tumbler and putting it back in my cup cradle, I'm going to use my cup cradle like I normally do to get this vinyl applied. First, making sure that I am pointing the end of the triangle of my vinyl straight down and making sure that it meets evenly and meets all the way around the back of the tumbler. I like to kind of adhere or anchor down the section of the vinyl kind of towards the tip so that I don't misplace my vinyl. And then you'll see me use a pair of scissors after I peel off a little bit of that backing to start to adhere one side of the vinyl and place that on the tumbler, just pulling that nice and taut until it is completely applied on that section. Then I'll go back and remove the tape, and again we will just literally lift the vinyl up and then remove the backing completely and just very carefully kind of smooth this on, kind of just as if I was going to do like a full vinyl wrap. So once you get it anchored down and get one side really anchored to the cup, usually you don't have any issue with this being misaligned, as long as you've done that initial anchoring to make sure that it's not going to go on a little bit crooked onto your cup. So I'm just going to use my squeegee tool here just to kind of help me guide the rest of this vinyl on, and then I'll be able to, of course, trim up the top with my craft knife. But first I will pull that vinyl kind of inward to make sure I have a nice smooth rim. I don't want any bubbles or any wrinkling right at the rim, because that is where we are going to have some issues with some of my epoxy pooling in there. So pulling the vinyl as taut and tightly as you can, and then just using a sharp craft knife to drag along the top side to be able to get a nice clean rim at the top of the cup. So now to do sort of the multi-vinyl V-split sort of look with the glitter all the way down in this sort of V-split herringbone style glitter pattern that we're doing for this tumbler. So I'm just taking some 1-inch painter's tape, and I am very carefully lining that just on the outer edge of the vinyl that we placed on the cup and cutting it right where it meets on the back side. You will see me go in with the other piece of tape on the other side of the cup, and what I do here is I start on the back side, line it up, and then right up against that vinyl until it meets along the front side of the cup here. So once I get to the front side of the cup, right where this overlaps, I'm going to just trim that section so it's a perfect V right there at the bottom there. And then I'm just going to continue to kind of do this lined pattern here. So the one thing I will say to kind of accomplish this look that I particularly am going for is what I do want to make sure to do is make sure to continue to go every other, not following the same side all the way down with my strips of tape, going back and forth on one, the left side to the right side, and not going left side, left side, left side all the way down the cup, if that makes sense. So again, this is not really a true herringbone, because a herringbone really has like, I think it's 1 inch wide by like 3-inch long sections all the way down this style of a cup. This is slightly different because we're doing the length of the cup as opposed to cutting it into smaller sections. But certainly if you wanted to do, the herringbone technique, you could certainly do that with just cutting your sections much smaller, or just kind of maybe using the tape as your guideline and just measuring them and cutting those 3-inch sections. So I'm just going to continue to do this all the way down the cup. Again, if you have questions, definitely feel free to leave those down in the comment box. But of course, nobody wants to sit here and watch me literally tape down this entire cup. But of course, if you have questions or get confused, definitely make sure to post a comment down below, and I'll definitely do sort of a quicker tutorial or maybe a short on YouTube that just shows you how I do this technique. So after we've done this, I will then go back and put another section of tape kind of covering up the vinyl, because we are going to need to do a little bit of base painting with some acrylic before we can get into glittering all of our lines and sections. All right, so as I said, we're going to go in and we're going to base paint. So the way that I'm deciding which lines are going to be which colors is that I have one side that's going to be every other blue and white glitter, and then the flip side will be a mix and every other of the pink and purple glitters that I'm using. You could do this in any way that you want. You could mix up the glitter colors so that kind of it's an even pattern all the way, but there isn't the same two colors next to each other. It's kind of whatever you decide to do. But we are going to base paint each of these sections with just some acrylic paint to match so that I don't have to do multiple coats of glitter. So acrylic paint has dried, and now we're going to go in with a layer of Mod Podge here. And after I've done putting Mod Podge on all 3 of those sections, I'm going to go ahead and grab out, this is Freezing Snowball from Lysha Creations. I'm using a bunch of glitters from her most recent winter glocks, which was a custom winter bundle of new mixed glitters that aren't yet going to be available on her site. She kind of does these kind of limited edition ones. So I did pick up this box, but you can find alternative colors, which I will also link down below, that would be comparable to be using for this same color style. So now we're going to go in with some purple acrylic paint to base paint the next 3 sections, which are just the next ones that are touching my blue sections. I just still did every other side. After we've done that, we'll go in with our layer of Mod Podge, and we're going to go in with Vervain from Lysha Creations. It's this beautiful light purple color. It is one of my favorite colors from Lysha Creations, so we're going to go in with that to cover up this entire section before we move on to our 3rd section. So again, I'm just switching back and forth between kind of the line, left to right. I'm going to base paint each section, and then I'm going to go in with Mod Podge after the acrylic paint has dried, and then I'll finally go in with my layer of glitter. So my white glitter is Daisy from Lysha Creations. This was in the 4th of July bundle that she did back in the summer. So it's a beautiful white, true white color, absolutely beautiful. It has a great and gorgeous shimmer. So that is going to be on my white section. And then finally, we're going to get into doing our pink section, which I just did a base paint of a light pink acrylic paint there. And then of course, we're going to get into doing our layer of Mod Podge, and then we're going to go in with Frozen Candy. So this is the final glitter color. And then we're just going to do the bottom portion of the cup here in just Daisy, the white glitter. Okay, so of course I'm going to let that completely dry, and then I will spray seal that cup once the Mod Podge has dried with a couple coats of clear gloss spray paint, and that's just going to help make sure my glitters do not migrate when I apply my epoxy. So right now I'm going to be showing you a new epoxy that I picked up. This is Lightning Cure epoxy from the Epoxy Resin Store. Many of you maybe have seen it, maybe heard of it. It's supposed to be a super quick turnaround for a fast set epoxy. Like, it's supposed to cure like in 1 to 2 hours, and so this is my first time trying it out, so I figured I would throw this in here as well. Of course, you guys know I am wearing my proper PPE, both my respirator and goggles, and of course gloves and an apron to protect my clothing. So I'm going to go ahead and pour equal parts of this epoxy into a medicine cup. I mixed about 30 ml because I am going to apply epoxy to 2 cups, and I only mixed for probably about 2 minutes or so. What I did notice is that this epoxy literally mixes like water. Like, I almost couldn't even tell that it was epoxy. If I hadn't poured it from those bottles, like, I wouldn't have even known it was epoxy. Like, it's super clear, really easy to use. I really had no bubbles whatsoever in my epoxy, which is absolutely amazing because then it's far less torching that I really have to worry about when I go to apply this onto my cup. So again, I mixed for about 2 minutes or so, just enough so that I could make sure that there were no ribbons in my epoxy or cloudiness where there may have been sections that were unmixed. So I mixed that thoroughly, and I'm going to take you over to my turner and I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is to get this applied, and then obviously give you my honest review of this after the time frame it took for this to cure. Now over to my turner, and of course we're going to get this epoxy applied to my cup. So it was really simple and easy to apply. What I will also note for you guys is that this epoxy is very thin. So it's not a very thick viscosity. So if you're not used to that, it could be something, you know, to get adjusted to. It is much thinner and reminds me more of the consistency of Alumilite's epoxy versus what I currently have been using, which is Chaos Resin Liquidy Split. I really did love how simple and quick and easy it was to apply this. I definitely can see how quick it was going to cure. It didn't get super warm in my cup because it only took me a matter of a minute to really get this applied to the cup. However, I would definitely only probably mix one measuring cup of epoxy at a time, because the longer it takes you to apply, because this is such a quick turnaround, the quicker it is going to start to thicken up. And obviously you don't want super wavy tumblers. And I think in order to cut down on that, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you're only maybe doing a batch of 2 cups at a time with the 30 mLs of epoxy. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw out my gloves here and then grab my torch, and I will torch the bubbles off of this really quick just with a pass of my torch. And then I'm going to leave this and come back in 30 minutes. Okay, so these are literally already cured. It's been 30 minutes. Literally, it's been 30 minutes. Holy moly. Are you serious? What? Okay, I'm gonna go in with a second coat on both. Yeah. So as you can certainly tell by my voiceover over that section there, I was really surprised with how quickly that this epoxy cured. Like, I was really I wasn't really sure how it was going to work for me because, of course, I'm in upstate New York, so it does get quite cold here, and we are already starting to get those kind of low dips in our temperature as it changes for fall and moving into the winter season. It's only going to continue to get colder, so typically I have to go with epoxies that have a cooler sort of dry time as far as the temperature it needs to be in my space, because it can be difficult to keep my space quite warm. But I was so shocked that literally in 30 minutes, and I set a timer because I wanted to make sure I went down in 30 minutes. These cups were literally tack free. I could touch them. I could sand them at that point if I wanted to. And that's exactly what I did. I put one more coat on, waited another 30 minutes, and now we're on to sanding. So of course you guys know that I'm going to go in with my nail file tool on my top rim here, and then follow that up with my 60 grit sanding block, as well as do the bottom rim to make sure I don't have any rough edges. And then, of course, we're going to clean this off with some 91% rubbing alcohol so that we can go ahead and apply some details. So we're going to go ahead and be doing some washi tape lines with just some white washi tape to kind of line up all of these glittered sections. So, of course, I'm not going to sit here and make you watch this whole thing. I am going to speed up this section here, but I'm just taking washi tape and following all of the lines of glitter all the way down the cup until I get this entire section filled with this white vinyl. So here's a look at everything with the washi tape on. I will put this back on the turner and do another coat of the lightning cure epoxy to cure in literally 30 minutes, and then I'll be ready for my final details. I obviously wanted to make sure to go in with a coat of epoxy before I did these final decals, because I am going to be using a holographic vinyl here, and I wanted to make sure that you couldn't see the vinyl washi tape lines underneath the holographic vinyl. So to be able to make sure that that did not happen, going in with that layer of epoxy is going to create yet another smooth surface for me to be able to apply my final vinyl decals. So I grabbed this Snowflake stencil out of Cricut Design Space. That typically is my first go-to. If I can't find it in Cricut Design Space images, then I'm typically going to Creative Fabrica to grab up an SVG that I may need for a project. So I'm just going to apply these snowflakes that are just under an inch wide or big to just various spaces on the back side. So because we have such a beautiful cluster of snowflakes in the vinyl pattern, I thought it would be really cute to do some holographic vinyl on the back in a snowflake pattern, just kind of randomly placing these and filling up that space. Now, I originally thought maybe I would keep it into the different glittered sections and just do my more solid glittered colors in sort of the white and the purple sections, but these were actually a little bit wider than I should have cut, even though they were under an inch. And so I just decided that I'd create sort of like this beautiful cluster of these holographic snowflakes on the back, just to kind of tie everything together. So I'm just going to finish applying these. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me do this, but let's go ahead and take a look at the final result of the cup after my final coats of epoxy. So of course, you guys know I am really excited with how this came out, and I really hope that this inspires you to create something like this or maybe something different, and I can't wait to see what you create. Definitely be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye!